All right, cool. Hello and welcome to my lab. Today, as this description says, we'll be assembling the ice maker today, at least as much as we can. Now, I came in here this morning and just kind of went through stuff to make sure we have everything we need, and of course we don't. There's one part that we missed in 3D printing, but thankfully that's only going to take a couple hours to print anyway. And then the other thing I noticed too is I didn't look at the frame after we finished welding on the cross braces, but it warped pretty significantly. You can see right there after getting these on. And I was hoping, I haven't TIG welded much. I mean, literally that was the second time I've TIG welded. I was wondering if TIG welding would create less or more distortion than I'm used to, and it definitely creates more when I'm MIG welding, and probably because you're putting a large chunk of metal on, it usually warps less after you get a bunch of tacks in place, in my experience. And this kind of warped as if, basically the amount I would expect is if I didn't put tacks on there hardly at all. Also, I may have been heating up the metal a lot more in the last, than I would have with MIG welding. But thankfully, this frame, very little about the dimensionality on this frame really matters because we're going from point to point here with pillow blocks, and pillow blocks are like bearings with bearings on a ball joint. So as long as you're just going point to point, they kind of take up the slop, and I've already tested that to make sure that will work. And then the other thing here, the only other thing that really matters is I've got mounting holes right here that have to line up with the mounting holes right here. And of course, that's all screwed up now because of that. So I had to go through, and this is the electronics enclosure mount. Get these screws out of here. So I did go through and I just, I don't know if you can see this. Let me switch to the other cam. We got some fancy cam work going on here. Yeah, all right. So I just took the top screws here, backwards from my perspective, and I just took my soldering iron and widened those out and made a slot out of them, and then kind of cleaned them up a bit. And so those should work now because I really only need that to clamp. It's not particularly important. So the thing about this frame is if this were important, any of these dimensions, this would be basically a ruined frame. So that's what these tests are for. Yeah. I think the lens is making it a little bit worse, but it's pretty bad. I mean, if I were counting on those dimensions, it'd be a problem. But yeah, normally you would, of course, do a lot more clamping down and stuff. But I find that when I clamp down to the welding table that I have, it just makes things worse because that table is round. So anyway, we're just going to start hitting this thing and attaching everything we can to it. Of course, once we do everything, get everything fitted here today, I'm probably going to take stuff off and paint it again, or paint it before reattaching stuff again. But this should be a good demonstration of all of the fitment of everything and getting everything ready for that. So I'm going to set this enclosure aside for a little while. And let's see. One of the first things I want to try, because it makes me a little nervous, is this radiator. And this radiator is sort of a computer radiator, the kind you would use in a computer, but it's super cheap. So I had to modify some things just to even get these fans on. That was one of the first things I did a while ago because I was a bit concerned about it. But I got all that fitted up, and it's working fine. And then I have a 3D printed bracket here that'll go onto this thing and then mount onto the frame. And there's very little meat here to clamp onto, and they're very small screws. So I was a bit nervous about that, but I went and tested some things this morning, and I had to modify some stuff this morning on the mill. And of course, milling out PLA is always an adventure, but I I actually came through here, recut those holes to just the right size, and then I actually went down and cut a depth with a bigger drill bit so that I could get a countersink. Let me see, I don't know if it's in focus there for you. But now I've got these little screws going down into that countersink and leaving just a little bit of material on the other side. And that really is all I have to screw into anyway, so I think this will work. But I want to try that first because that concerns me a bit. Let's see, and I gotta make sure I get the orientation right. Oh yeah, another thing I screwed up when I was welding, I got this whole bar upside down. So the tapped holes were reversed. So I had to go tap 2 more holes this morning. So let's see, I'm gonna mount this first on the radiator. Let's see. Yeah, that's cool. I've got this giant camera setup with this camera hanging over my head. It's quite nice. Okay. Stick some more screws. And you can see that the mill tore up this one, but we don't need all of them, so it'll be all right. And then bring this together. Yeah, and I wanted to get started on the cooler block, but that extra part that we still need to print is main part of the cooler block, so I can't get to that yet. I think some of this stuff is going to be so fiddly, I won't be able to get a camera in on live stream, so I think we'll get as much done as we can now, and then I'll have to come back I'll go ahead and do that in like the old style of just recording it, because then I can just add it on to the video that I'm going to make that's a cut of everything we're doing here. I see, this doesn't quite. Yeah, this radiator is like flimsy sheet metal kind of thing, so it's not particularly accurate. Try to loosen up these screws here so I can just wiggle it on over there. I don't know if this one's going to behave. Not only is it like thin sheet metal, but it's super soft. But it's literally the cheapest radiator on Amazon. I love to find out what cheap crap on Amazon is actually useful and what's not. Okay, I think I got that one in. Let's see what else we can do. And you can see now why I was a bit concerned about this. It's just super janky. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, I'm not taking that off again. Okay, but that does that seems solid enough. All right. And then this. Let's see if the other camera is a bit better. Yeah. So that goes right on the side there. Right like that. So just like that. Yeah, that's what this piece here is. Okay. Where did I put those screws? Hold on. I'm gonna stick these wires in a specific place also. Yeah, the wire is where I want it. So should be good. All right. Once I get this on, we can move on to the second most difficult part of this, and then it should just start getting easier from there. Yeah, and these threads I didn't cut on the mill because I had to add them afterwards due to the aforementioned issue of putting that bar upside down. So these ones aren't. Oh, come on. Now it's cross-threading. Come on. One problem with using grade 8 hardware all the time is that it can cross-thread your softer metals, and then it's really hard to get it back. I might have to run the tap in there again. See if I can get it completely without running it in here. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to grab my tap really quick, because those threads got gunked up. Okay. There we go. Never be afraid to just chase that thread again with a tap. Okay. And now that I got that thread reestablished, I'll be really careful just to get everything threaded before I start trying to tighten anything down. Yeah, there we go. Now it's going in straight. Oh, I think I got it. Yep. Oh, that's always satisfying. Yeah, and those were the only ones I cut by hand or with a hand drill, so the rest should be a lot easier. All right. Okay, there we go. So now that's the radiator for the water cooling system that's going to cool the heat pumps. There we go. Okay. Now let's see. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and just mount the electronics enclosure. That's the next thing that's kind of concerning me. Now, the holes down towards the bottom, there's 3 holes in the bottom. They match up down here, and those line up really nice, obviously, because they're all in a row. And then, you know, the ones up here, those are the ones that are a little sideways. So I think I'm going to try to get those weird ones in first, and then we'll line up with the ones that are in a line. I need another. Let's see, which camera do we want to use? Not easy to see this part, but I'm just going to put them in there. Let's see if you can, yeah, there you go, something like that. time to stand up. Okay, I got that one threaded in a couple of rounds. Okay. Come on. Oh, I can barely see. Oh, I think that's in there. All right, cool. That's it. Okay, so I specifically did not tighten those down. And that should allow us to wiggle around so that I can line up those bottom holes. Okay, those look pretty good. See if it can be done. There's never quite enough hands to make this stuff work. Okay, I got that one in. And that one. And once I get all these threaded, I'm gonna kind of smack it around a bit to just try to get it to line up a bit better with the slots up here. Oh, this one doesn't want to thread. Let's see. Come on. I'm loosening these ones back up, see if I can get some slack back. And also the slots up here. Oh, there we go. I think that's mounted in place. Okay. hardest one to see too. Oh man, I keep almost getting it in there. I think I might just not use this one. It's kind of overkill anyway. Alternatively, I could just open up those slots a little bit further, but I think this is good enough. I think I might have got it. I tightened up the other ones, which might pull it in line. No, it just keeps popping out. I'm not going to use that one. That'll be fine. Okay, that's on there. All right, and then this, I finished up the welding on this since yesterday. So that fits really nicely on here, but I don't want to get that on there yet. Let's see. I test fit the pump here. This is the vacuum pump, and that fits really nicely. Now from a wearing perspective, I don't know if I want to do that one yet. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I should probably put, there's a tank that goes on the other side through these screw holes before I start putting other electronics in here. So, let's grab that. So the water pump goes on this side, on the inside here. I can probably show it a little easier in the Fusion. So you can see, yeah, the pump goes down here, and then there's going to be a reservoir right here. Now, that thing has barbs around this side. It's going to be a little tight in there, but it just attaches with a couple of screws. Now let's see, which side am I going to tap? Okay. Okay. So let's see if you can see this. That's this thing. Let's see if I can get a better shot. Yeah, okay. So it's just gonna hold water in here for the water system, and then it's got an inlet and an outlet here, and then just two holes that will attach it. So I've got to tap these two holes and then make sure that the holes in here are the correct size, because they're just as printed right now. So I might have to widen those up, fit the screws in. I'll use, I guess I'll use the black one. Yeah, more of these. Alright, first things first, just cut this. And these 3D prints are pretty brittle, so you got to be really careful starting them. But they tap pretty well once you get it started. I might have to go line this up in the middle to get it vertical. We'll see. That hole might be a bit small too. Once it's on the table, it'll be a little easier. Yeah, that's the brittleness right there. So I got a little crack, but thankfully I can just put some very fine super glue in there, and we should be fine. Not a problem. I'll grab the super glue. Put that actually up here. Yeah, super thin. Yeah, super glue helps a lot when you're working with this crap. I don't know if you can see this crack. Let's see. Oh. Yeah, it's gray on gray, so I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little crack there, and I'm just going to fill it in with some of the really thin super glue. And I just spread it around a bit. All right. This other pole probably won't crack on me because it's closer to the center, but we'll see. think this hole printed a little small. It's not wanting to tap very well. There goes that cracking again. Yeah, that hole is definitely small. All right, so because it didn't want to get in there, it did two things. We had essentially bored out the beginning of it, so there's no threads at the beginning. It's just all the large radius of this tap, and also at the end it cracked out. So I'm going to keep using super glue, and then I can actually re-tap the super glue, which for this application works well. So I'll fill it in, and then I'm going to just poke the hole in it until it doesn't have, I don't want it to completely fill that hole. Alright, I think I got what little cracking there was. Now I'm going to switch to a thicker super glue, and I'm going to try to fill in that a little bit. That's one of the things I really like about the SLA printing is I find the resin, the parts that this produces, a little easier to doctor up than the PLA parts. The PLA parts are really finicky. But I think that my SLA printer is doing a little bit of well, it's a DLP, or not a DLP. It's specifically not that. It's a what is it, LCD type. So there's a UV light and then an LCD that blocks the UV light, and it's really nice because it does the entire layer simultaneously, which gives you really quick prints. But at the same time, it can bleed because the picture, if it just exposes for too long, it starts to bleed out the radiuses, so it screws with your dimensions. And I think that's what's going on here, because these holes aren't the size that I specified them to be. I'm just gonna kick these here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now they should tap. Yep, and that's a little better than last time now. Let me try that with an actual screw, see if we got it. Yep, that's going in there. Okay, good. So to reiterate, I filled it back in with super glue so that I could actually cut the threads again. we go, and that one's feeling good as well. Okay. Now let's see. All right, it's these two holes. I'm gonna go grab a drill bit, and we'll just make sure the holes over here are big enough to fit those screws. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Okay. So hopefully you can see here, goes and lines up, and then we've got the inlet and outlet ports right in there. A little bit difficult to see. But yeah, everything looks good and lined up, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. This screw is not long enough, I'll grab another one. I gotta make sure we're using all the threads on this thing because they're not very strong. You're just not going to be able to see that part. And I'm not tightening those very much because it's a light part and those threads are not that strong. But yeah, it's well retained, so we should be good. So now you can see in there. Of course, this plastic is all gray, so it's a little bit difficult to see. But the gray plastics, they print so well. A little easier to see here. So water will go in here, and this will be the reservoir for the water system, the water cooling system. Okay. So see why we can't just put the pump on now. And this is one thing I haven't checked yet. I've got a little mounting plate that'll go right here. Let's pull this all back. It'll go right here, and then that'll hold this thing on there. So let's see. It goes that way. I want this to go that way. All right. So yeah, let's just see if we can get that screwed on at least before I go putting it on. Okay, yeah, I've got some of these plastic screws and they'll probably work well for this. Hopefully the holes didn't print undersized again, because that'll be a problem. Yeah, they did. All right, let me see if I got some smaller screws of the same kind. So that's, yeah, you can't see them very well, but they're Torx, and they're kind of like lobed, and they self-tap for plastic, which is really nice. I do have some smaller ones, but I don't think they're going to be long enough for this. So I'm going to have to tap those with M4, I think. That might have been what I'm planning, or was planning when I designed it, but sometimes the design and the assembly are so far apart you can't remember what you were doing. All right, at least it's really large, so it should be all right to tap. I think these holes are a bit small. Yeah. All right, let me grab a drill bit. So this is the drill size for that tap, so I'll just go ahead and pre-drill these holes and that should be fine. And anytime you try to drill PLA, it just gets gummy. Okay, now those should tap nice. Let's just get in there. The plastic might still be a little too warm to do that. Yeah, like I said, PLA, a little annoying to work with when you're trying to post-process. So I'll make sure the threads are really clean on this tap too. Okay, there we go. I think I just had to let it cool down a bit. The metal, or the plastic in the center was a bit gummy still. I might be able to even just do this in the drill. It's so easy to do. This will either work beautifully or it's a really bad idea. One of those two things. That's super loud. Okay. Okay, I might back out a little slower. This is getting hot. That's not as good. Yeah, every time I modify PLA, it's just such a pain. All right, let's give that a try. These grommets are a pain. Just keep trying things, I guess. Okay, I can get that through the grommet, and then this will probably... So we're back to the plastic screws, because the plastic screws still want a larger diameter than that anyway. So I can at least get those through the vibration grommets. Okay, that'll work. That's the plan. Oh yeah, that'll do it. Those are biting on nice. Okay, so let's get this mount on the frame, and then we'll go from there. And that printed at the right diameter, so we don't really have to worry about that. That will just work. And these holes were cut on the mill, so there's no issues trying to get those to fit. Let's see. All right, there we go. That's pretty chunky. That should work. I'm going to pre-thread these plastic screws and then thread them into the block. I wish I had more direct control over the camera, because I can get quite a bit more zoom out of that camera, but it's way up in the air now, so I can't really just zoom it in. I can reach the focus though. I wonder if I can focus something close. Oh yeah. That actually might be a good plan in general. Actually, it looks better now. I wonder if it was out of focus this whole time. It's hard to tell on my monitor. Let's see. Yeah, okay, well. Let's see. How am I going to do this? Let's see, that looks like absolute nonsense from the camera. I can't see anything. Except the frame. It's right there. Oh, maybe like this. Still grand gray. That's great. Alright, I'm just going to walk this thing in. Might have to do it the other way around. Can't get that screwdriver in there. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm only going to unscrew this screw, and that might allow me to just slide it out just enough. Yep, there we go. Maybe like that, yeah. So I just only did one, undid one so I can get in there. Okay. I crushed one of the grommets there, but I don't really care. Do not care. Okay, and then I've still got to get some fittings and stuff on here, but I'll probably do all the wiring and the plumbing and just record that, and that'll get in the cut down video that I'll make of this. Okay. So there's the pump, reservoir, and I think we can probably put some electronics in now. Let's see if I can just refocus. All right. All right. So the vacuum pump right here is going to go inside. Hopefully that'll reduce some of the noise. It's pretty noisy. I may also design a muffler for the inlet side, or the output side, actually, in case if it does make too much noise. Yeah. Whatever, doesn't matter. So yeah, if that makes too much noise, I'll try to make a muffler or something. So then this vacuum is just going to go through here, through a hose, and then go right into the chill block. There's going to be a little chamber there for the vacuum. Yeah, so this just mounts right down in here. And let's see if I can find the other electronics. Yeah, here we go. So I've got a couple of H bridges. Actually, it's a couple of double H bridges, and these are for applying current and controlling motors. Now, here I'm just divvying out the power to different subsystems. So there's going to be one of these H bridges down here, and this is a lower power one, and then one of them up here is the higher power one. Is going to I think this one's going to be dedicated for the Peltier coolers. In case you're not remembering, these guys right here, these are like a little electronic heat pump. If you pass current through them, one side gets cold, one side gets hot, and then if you can remove the heat from the hot side, you can get things really cold. So this is going to supply the power for these thermal electric coolers here. There's going to be 4 of those. So that will go in here, and I'll have to do some wire routing. And then this guy here, I think this is going to power, let's see, I've got a couple of the subsystems put together. Okay, so the fans and the whole water system is going to just turn on when you apply power. So I don't really need an H-bridge for that. But the vacuum pump here and something else I can't remember. Oh, right. Yeah, the other motor on this vibration motor. Well, yeah. This is going to power the vibration motor and the vacuum pump motor. Those are the two things. So that is going to go down right here. I'm going to go ahead and do that when I do the wiring because I'm probably going to want to wire those. I'm going to want to put the wires in the terminal blocks and then go ahead and put those down. And then I'll sort out all the wiring in here. Let's go ahead and tie this pump down, the vacuum pump. So there's just this sleeve that tightens down and it's gonna tighten down on the cylinder here of the motor itself. And that should lock it in place. I don't know how to show it though while I'm tightening. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I get a good shot of it and then I just cover it up with my hands. But it's a bit fiddly. Okay, now it's in. I'm going to go ahead and pull. There's a little end stop that I have designed for it. So I'm going to pull until it hits that stop and then just tighten down. Yep, okay. And then that leaves room for the air vents. There's a fan and air vents on either side, so that's open and can pass air. Okay. Now then, the other main electronics that I'm putting in, I'm just going to probably, I think this came with a mount, but I might just have to tape it in here or something. This is a little super cheap PLC, an Ace PLC that I bought a while ago just to see how well it would work, and it does happen to have just enough I/O for this job, and it also, out of the box, just connects to this HMI, which is also super cheap and from the same place. And so I've had these for a while and haven't really done a whole lot with them except test to see if they're any good. And they're reasonably good for simple projects, so I'm just going to go ahead and put these two in this project, and then, you know, there you go. You're going to have your touch screen right over here next to the ice maker, and then this, it's going to go somewhere in here, but I might have to tape it in. I don't like taping things in, but sometimes I lose the mounts that these are supposed to go on, and then I guess I have to. Doing pretty well here. I'm going to grab some of this other stuff. I think a lot of this stuff is going to be, well, unfortunately, I can't assemble the cooler block today because there's a small 3D printed piece that actually bridges this gap here, and it actually allows me to put like an M8 bolt down and sandwich the coolers, the thermoelectric coolers, as well as the water block. Which is right here. So I actually, I also lapped this water block, so it's pretty shiny, and that'll give us a better thermal contact. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and grind this down smoother as well while I'm at it. And then once we get that 3D printed block finished, I can go ahead and assemble this, and then I'm going to cover it in like green house insulation foam, if you've ever seen that. And then it goes in here. There's quite a few operations I have to do to this also, and I think that is just going to be too fiddly to try to get into live stream. So I think for assembling the entire water block area, I'm just going to go ahead and record that in the normal fashion, and that's all going to go into the that final video, the final assembly video. Some of the things I want to do, I'm really pushing the limits on this part here. So this is all obviously FDM printed, and you usually can't rely on that form of 3D printing being airtight, but this is actually a vacuum chamber in here. So I'm thinking of taking UV curing resin and just kind of painting that around the walls and then curing that, because that stuff really is, it does a really good job of being airtight. Let's see if I can show you this stuff. There's a little hole you can see right here. This actually goes all the way through into this hole here. So I've got to try to seal up this whole thing, and then there will be a gasket all the way around the top where I can put some plexiglass, and then also there's a gasket in the bottom that will seal against the aluminum block. And so that's just all the stuff I can do to try my best to get at least a reasonable vacuum in this chamber here. And then there's going to be some difficulty assembling, let's see, the rest of this. So these, I was debating on whether to make them out of aluminum or plastic, and I'll show you what these are in Fusion. So that's these things right here, and they actually, if I can get rid of some of this stuff here, you can see the water block actually rides on those, and those are on linear bearings there, but these rods need to fit inside those this part. Now, I could make them in aluminum, and that would take a while to try to mill that on the mill. The issue right now is the holes are a little bit too small, and it's really difficult to get PLA to play nice. If I just drill it out, it tends to melt. But I've got some interesting ideas of possibly cutting the rod to length and putting the rod in my drill truck, and then putting this in the vise, getting it all orientated correctly, and then just using the spindle to essentially friction weld this in there, the rod. So here's the rod before it's cut, and as you can see in the design, there's actually a rod right here that I need to cut, and that goes on either side into those pillow blocks. And then there's two rods right here that need to be cut and fitted. So I think I might cut those to length and just try to get the mill to just spin it and shove it in there, because it's pretty close. So I'm hoping I can do it relatively quickly without melting the whole part down. So that's going to be an adventure, and I think I want to set the camera up properly to capture that. I don't want to try to do that on stream and not capture whatever happens there. But there is some other cool stuff. I think this piece right here is just about ready. I think I just need to shave a little bit off on the inside, which I kind of expected to have to do. This fits right on here. And then a bolt will go through and act as an axle. And then that can rotate like this. And then there's a spring back here. This is going to allow the handle to lock in one of two positions. So if you, let me see if I can get a better shot of this. I have no idea if this is going to work. Oh yeah, that's reasonably good. Okay, so you've got the axis here. This can slide out, which will allow the entire axis to rotate around. So this is what's going to allow it to sit, up here. And then when it's done, you flip it around, press a button on the screen, and the Peltier devices are going to go from cooling to heating, and hopefully the ice will fall out of the tray onto like a plate or something. But that is just there's just a little too much friction there. It's kind of catching on some stuff. So I'm just going to have to go through and, with some sandpaper, just carefully take a little bit off until it fits really nicely. And then I've got to fit a spring back there. Yeah. So that's pretty nice. So another thing I want to do before we're done is just try to make sure that the rod will fit in here. And we should be able to, let's see, where did I put those? So these are the pillow blocks I've been talking about. Just put those there. So these are bearings, but they will rotate around. You can see, hopefully. They rotate around on a ball joint kind of thing. So I'll go ahead and put these on, and these should just work for the most part. I've had a lot of success with these. So this is a lot of the reason why the squareness of the frame doesn't matter too much, like I was referring to before. Once I get these on. See if I can do this backwards. All right. Now where did I put that rod? Oh, here it is. Okay. So I'll go ahead and put it in through here. Of course, this is way longer than it's going to be, so it'll be easier in the future, but there we go. Okay, so you can see the rod can go, it can deviate quite a bit, and that's just because this pillow block is actually rotating around. And then you can just get it into both of them. And then there are just a couple of set screws in each of these, which you can just apply a light torque to. There we go. So even though the frame is, bent over this way, these are just fine. So not too long from now, this will be sitting here kind of like this with a bunch of extra crap tacked onto it. But yeah, I think that's everything I can reasonably do on stream today. I'm going to, as soon as I get off, I'm going to start doing a bunch of electrical and stuff, but that is just so tedious that I can't imagine that being entertaining. So I will probably just go ahead and do all the wiring, all the plumbing and stuff, and then just explain it in retrospect. Trying to think if there's anything else, but yeah, we're pretty close. I think I just have to do a lot of work on this block here, but that I will be able to focus on and get recorded. So the next video on the channel will be the summation of everything we've done on the streams, and then also any additional work I did on this and some stuff I've done along the way. And that should allow me to get some better camera shots. So I'll be trying to post more on Twitter about anything that's coming up, and as soon as I actually have the functionality to do so, I'll be putting out little community notifications and stuff like that. Yeah, so that should be sometime next week. We should be testing this thing. I'm also, of course, going to paint this frame. So I think that is it for today. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but I guess that's all it's going to be. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.